What's going on, everybody? Welcome to it, man. Free Riders, thank you very much for joining me, man. I'm so happy to be back. Oh, what an awesome week it's been. I've had a fantastic week, man. I tell you, all my guests, I really appreciate all of you guys that made time to join me on the Free Ride podcast. It's been absolutely phenomenal. And of course, also, I've been seeing all your comments. Don't be alarmed. Today I'm wearing a little bit of a suit and tie, looking all formal, because this has been a crazy weekend too, dog. Let me tell you, man. So it started off with the three presidents who on Saturday started a launch and a campaign against our own President Cyril Ramaphosa. Okay, so it started off with Kgalema Motlanthe, then Thabo Mbeki, then Jacob Zuma, in that order. So I'm going to play you some of the clips where you can watch and listen to what they had to say about our current president. So that's the number one thing we're going to speak about. And as I record this, let me tell you, the court has ruled in favor of the DA's Phalatse. So she is a mayor once again. What is happening in Johannesburg? Oh my God, it's crazy what's happening in Johannesburg. Now, the mayor, Dada Morero, as well as his executive committee, the MMCs, have stepped aside so that they can, of course, comply with the court ruling that says that Paul Phalatse was forcefully removed. All right. So, what else are we going to look at? I'm also going to look at the issue around the passing of the Electoral Amendment Bill. So, I'm going to talk about that. So, if you are an independent and you would like to maybe run as president, like we have seen people with interests such as Musi Maimani before he launched his party, as well as the former Constitutional Court that they, I'll think of his name now. He's my homeboy, man. No tlhaga ka se one le mao lady ko Lefurutshane ko Rustenburg. I'll just think of him now. But he wants to be the president. So there might be other people that want to run as independent candidates. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And of course, also to touch on, the UK's got a brand new prime minister. So there's a lot to chew on. And also, the Free Ride podcast has 4 events this weekend. I don't know how I'm going to make to all of them. And I want to say big ups and thanks to everybody that's been showing us love. And of course, on all the different social media platforms, all of you guys that have been saying that, Sipo, we want to come on the show. Guys have been reaching out. It's just growing in its numbers, man. And I really appreciate the love and the support. And of course, I've been told, Jorge, I must refer to you as the Free Riders. And that was a suggestion that came through on YouTube to say the MacG and Podcast and Chill as Chillers. And then the Squatters belong to DJ Spoo, Virtual Mkuku, and then the Hustlers for Hustlers Corner. So who are we? I was asked. Who are we? Ribomang. So y'all are the Free Riders, man. Free-spirited, free-thinking individuals. And of course, I appreciate you guys for all the love. And let's get right into it. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to start with the presidents, right? So it turns out that the three presidents have gone up against our current president, and they've had a lot of things to say. And I'm going to share them with you. All right, so basically, it turns out that Kgalema Motlanthe and Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki had a couple of things to say about the current state of the country. And they went on to say that, look, let me start off with the clips. And then when we come back, I'll definitely talk about it. All right, let's do this thing. Boom.
I was told one of the ministers, I'm not going to say his name or her name, who was in charge of, in that Cogta ministry, they once said at an NEC meeting that if all of the resources, the money is voted for local government, if they actually went to local government to do what they were supposed to do, you would not have these demonstrations about service delivery. And he said that part of the problem is that a lot of those monies end up in the pockets of ANC leaders. And he went on to say, and I'm talking about people who are present in this meeting of the NEC, some of them. I'm saying that corruption is a very direct problem relating to this matter I'm raising, for instance, about the economy. I think it's justified for people to ask the question, will this conference in December come out with policies and programs and a leadership that will actually deal with this problem? I don't want to embarrass Billy Ramkhupaye by asking him to answer the question. Is he confident that this conference will produce those results? We've just had a policy conference. Which I'm certain has agreed on many good policies. But in the end, it's the practical outcome or the practical outcomes that will come out of those policy decisions that will count. We've been discussing, we've been raising these questions now, discussions, including in the NEC, that in October 2020, President Ramaphosa convened, asked the two houses of parliament to come together because he wanted to announce an important program, which was the South African Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Program, which is called the ERRP. Contains all the major elements of what need to be done about this economy, whether it's infrastructure or training of skilled people and so on. That was in October 2020. In July the same year, 2020, the business people, as one of the components, the social partners in the NADLEC process, had produced its own economic recovery program. They called it a strategy. It's an economic strategy, and government presented a reconstruction and recovery plan. I'm sorry, comrades, you've had a look at both of those documents. You can get them off the internet, and of course, the president, the speech, you can get it off the website of the presidency. So at one of those meetings of the NEC, I say, I've got the speech of the president on the ERRP, and I've downloaded from the media, from the internet, this thing that was presented by government. And I've looked at them. One of them, the ERRP, is 32 pages. The business strategy is 132 pages. So I say, you see, just looking at the length, it seems to me business have done more work on this thing than government has. And in reality, when I look at this business thing, it is supplying the detail of what needs to be done in order to realize what is in the ERRP. Now, the ERRP is a vision. This is where we want to get to. We got to infrastructure everything. Very correct. Nothing wrong with the ERRP. But needs a plan to realize that vision. And so we say, but why don't we look at this business strategy? It's very detailed. We are social partners and work on that to produce a plan. We call the ERRP a plan. It's not a plan.
Power and control, invisible forces, and ancient knowledge systems. With this in mind, let us be guided by history in our approach. From this vantage point, we notice how all nations are susceptible to crisis, political, economic, health, social, and natural catastrophes, multifaceted crises that have engulfed humanity since the misty beginnings of time. Sadly, as history will tell, whether during times of relative certainty or during times of global crisis, it is mainly the poorest people who are left behind. The salvation of the vulnerable and marginalized can at best be addressed under servant leadership, leadership capable of leading from the front and leading from behind. The late Professor Ntongela Masilela's interpretation of Professor Njabulo Ndebele's inaugural King Mushweshwe Memorial Lecture at the University of Free State on the 25th of May 2006, entitled Leadership Challenges Truth and Integrity in an Act of Salesmanship, reads in part as follows, and I quote, "Examining the quality of leadership necessary in the present context, in a very complex society in which the complexity of governance has constitutionally been put in place, Ndebele argues that its effective form is realized when it is in compliance with the will of the citizens in a counterintuitive manner. By counterintuitive, Ndebele means the leadership that is open to other alternatives other than those prescribed by the force of circumstances. He finds this exemplified in Mushweshwe's relationship with Mzilikazi in the 19th century and by Nelson Mandela in the relationship with white South Africans in our time. The true nature of this leadership is its ability to recognize the legitimacy of an alternative leadership that emerges to contest and democratically replace the present one, which is hegemonic and dominant. In other words, true leadership must be able to vision an alternative leadership to the one that is only capable of practicing and facilitating. This is what the present political leadership of the African National Congress is incapable of envisioning, an alternative and oppositional leadership that legitimately goes beyond the one the dominant leadership is capable of doing and achieving. The practice of democracy is predicated on envisioning an alternative other beyond one's ability. This is the conundrum of the present crisis in South Africa." Close quote. The moral of what Professor Ntongela Masilela and Professor Njabulo Ndebele are pointing out or pointing at is that the task of political radicals is to get to the point where they become no longer necessary because their goals would have been accomplished. And as I conclude, history, the teacher, tests our ability to explore each other's points of views, beliefs, findings, and solutions. Our strongest tool to discover how to steer the nation on a trajectory of recovery and cohesion and interact harmoniously with the ecosystem is born from the virtues of dialogue. The time for ideas and the time for exchange has never been more pressing for the survival of democracy and humanity than it is now. All markers point to a precipice, and from here, on the edge of the Drakensberg Mountains, we may observe how far the cliff edge falls for all. This forum is an urgent invitation to all sectors of society to respond to the situation they find themselves in. Allow this forum to be an engine of ideas that drives those who have the power to implement and inspire those of influence to rethink pathways to economic growth, to take stock and move this country and the continent forward.
Greetings to you all. We haven't talked. I know you guys love having discussions. You know why? Because I was in prison. You are not allowed to come to prison. I'm now out of prison, so if I take a little bit more of your time, don't feel bad, because I've been longing to talk to you. So if I take a bit long, I know you guys, some of them have what we call deadlines, etc. And I've got no line who's dead, so far as I'm concerned. As it is now, common knowledge, on the 7th of July, 2021, I handed myself to the Escort Correctional Center to serve a term of 15 months imprisonment as ordered by the majority decision of 7 judges of the Constitutional Court, in which 2 other judges held a different view on that judgment. On the 7th October 2022, I served the last day of that sentence of 1 year, 3 months. That was 3 months in prison, doing my sentence. However, the remaining concern that makes me feel uncertain is about whether I am really free, given that there is still a pending court decision in a case brought by white right-wing organizations that I should be sent back to prison. Therefore, while I am relieved about the ending of my prison sentence, I still remain exposed to the unjust injustice visited upon me by the justice system of this country. When we fought to liberate this country from the unjust laws of apartheid, we did not know those who supported and defended apartheid would is corrupt. Yet the busybodies and self-appointed anti-corruption crusaders and NGOs are dead silent. You are president.
Right, man, you heard it for yourself, Thabo Mbeki there, and of course addressing business community about the issues that he cited as problematic within the African National Congress. And of course, he went on as far as to talk about the things that have gone wrong within the African National Congress, the kind of leadership that needs to be elected at the next conference, and what kind of leader needs to be elected into leadership and taking South Africa to the next level. And of course, we also heard from Kgalema. He spoke at length, again, also speaking on the issues of leadership and what kind of leadership needs to be elected and to lead the African National Congress and to save the soul of the African National Congress at the upcoming conference that's coming through this December. And of course, with Jacob Zuma, he did not mince his words. He was very intentional. He called the president corrupt. He said that the president was doing this as a side hustle. And of course, he went all in attacking the Zondo Commission and the state capture, the reports. And of course, he went all in. You can check out all these statements. Go and watch all full of them. Obviously, I did not play you the whole full sums of the statements, but the ANC in KZN has come out guns blazing in defense of the president. We did not expect to see the ANC in KZN being so mature in defending the current president. One would have thought that they would have more interest in supporting President Jacob Zuma or its candidate Zweli Mkhize, but of course they came out in defense of the current president of the African National Congress. We saw the Eastern Cape also. We'll watch the clip from the Eastern Cape chairperson who comes out and also defends the ANC president. And also, I've just seen now that Northwest has also come out guns blazing to defend the African National Congress president. So the statement from ANC KZN says the ANC KZN is concerned about the public spats involving ANC presidents Thabo Mbeki, Kgalema and Jacob Zuma. It says Dr. Pixley Ka Isaka Seme House, the African National Congress, in KZN notes with a great deal of concern public spats in the media involving presidents of the ANC. On the 26th of August, we issued a statement informing the ANC rank and file and the people of this country about our planned visits to KwaDudunusa to see President Jacob Zuma and to drink from his deep well of wisdom. The engagement with Msholozi followed another empowering engagement with President Thabo Mbeki. As the ANC KZN, we committed ourselves to rebuild the province and ensure that all structures of the ANC are not left behind. In this regard, we reiterated our commitment to ensure an ongoing consultation with our elders who contributed towards the building of this province and the country as a whole. We saluted our leaders, presidents of the ANC, Mbeki, Zuma, and Kgalema, and we pointed that each one of them will have their footprints and the legacy remaining with us for many years to come. However, the ANC in KZN has noted a very strange occurrence wherein the above leaders are attacking the sitting president and President Ramaphosa and the ANC publicly. Clearly, such an exercise is eroding the standing of the organization in society. Whilst we respect their rights, as enshrined in the Constitution of the freedom of speech, we respectfully request our leaders to exercise restraint. We call upon leaders of our movement to use the right channel to raise whatever frustration they have with the ANC instead of attacking the ANC and its government and its leadership in public. So it's expected. It's the conference season. And of course, all the provinces leading up to their provincial conferences, it was all guns blazing, people attacking one another. Now it's the big one coming up in December. And of course, we will be seeing all knives out, people attacking one another like we have now. Okay, so let's go to the Eastern Cape and go hear the leader of the ANC in the Eastern Cape, Comrade Oscar Mabuyane, as he defends the ANC president. Let's do that. Boom!
We've seen presidents here, we've seen President Mandela. When they retire, they retire. They can only come in and advise where necessary. We've never seen this stampede. We've never seen this sort of public spat. It's so unfortunate. Yes, ANC has got challenges. These challenges are not new. They are not for this current leadership, including the current president, are challenges that ANC has been inheriting over years. So we should take collective responsibility to a certain extent and see how best are we finding panacea to address sort of these problems. So I don't think that is going the correct way. What we have just observed over the last 24 hours is very unfortunate, actually destructive, really, really bordering onto something that we should not really witness as the younger generation of the ANC. So I hope that they will actually understand and appreciate. So everyone is frustrated. The only thing that we can say, every member of the ANC, leader or former leaders, they must find themselves into structures of the ANC, find themselves into branches of the ANC to correct all these things that we're talking about. We're not going to correct them in abstract. We're going to correct them by actively participating in branches of the ANC.
Welcome back. All right, so you heard it from Oscar Mabuyane. And of course, just one of the issues and headlines that I saw that says, that Mbeki Lambas, criminals leading the ANC, questions Ramaphosa's fate amid the Phala probe. And of course, just one of the things Thabo Mbeki said in his long speech was that the ANC in the Eastern Cape, or is it Port Elizabeth, he said, that he did not want to go and campaign because some of the municipal managers and people leading the municipality were actually paying for Inkabi to kill people. So they were on the payroll of the municipality, and therefore he did not want to go and help campaign the ANC and putting criminals back into the leadership of the ANC. So much has been said by all three presidents, and of course, just in the past, some of the things that these leaders have said. So in 2008, when Thabo Mbeki was recalled, Thabo Mbeki has been attacking the ANC leadership since being recalled in 2008, and there has never been any halabaloo. So Kgalema Motlanthe went as far as saying the ANC must lose elections because he felt the ANC leadership at the time was a total failure. And this was during the time of Jacob Zuma as the president. Cyril called the ANC that he leads corrupt, and he went as far as calling the leadership of his predecessor 9 wasted years. And if you recall, he was at the Zondo Commission, and he spoke about the ANC that is corrupt. All right, so Jacob Zuma criticizes the current ANC leadership and its president, and we are told this is unprecedented. So I want to read out something quickly that I saw from Just your comments on social media. The one comes from Papano Pasha posted. They all suffer from the delusions of grandeur, but I love them. Wrong or right, these are our living ancestors. We must cherish them and accept that they neither angels or saints. So let's hear what more of you guys had to say. George Moloko says, the last president of our movement, citing the last three that I've just mentioned. So Ayanda says, my question is why the NEC or PEC doesn't say, listen, Ramaphosa, most people don't like you and they have accused you, and I think it's better for the ANC South Africa to step down like what Jacob Zuma did. He stepped down. And then, okay, I wish they can meet and think that they can save the ANC. This has come from Lisang. And something that came from President Jacob Zuma, you can check it out here. It says, Jacob Zuma says President Ramaphosa is corrupt and committed treason. So just on the basis of the statement of the ANC KZN Chairman Nathi Sutala says, ANC KZN is attracting unnecessary attention to themselves in the defense of a corrupt and incompetent man who has put the ANC's name into disrepute. We know they were responding to President Jacob Zuma, who is saying things we have been saying. Azania says, ANC KZN Yangidina. Yazi. Kgalema and Mbeki have been publicly criticizing Cyril for months now, and they have been quiet. Zuma calls one press briefing, they start releasing statements. If you read the last page of the statement, you can see Zuma was the main target. So SAN Poet, Patriot says, I see you recovered after ANC KZN, put you in your place. Askis uzoba strong, just vega, nje ukupapa nontombi. I don't know what that means. Comrade President, you really left us in total confusion. We were seeing arrests. All right, so these are just comments from the president. Of course, right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you a clip from the president delivering his State of the Nation. Or, okay, not the State of the Nations, but he called a family meeting on Sunday. And this was in response to what has been done with regards to the Zondo Commission, the findings of the commission, and what are the steps and the practical steps that he's willing to do in making sure that he deals with people who have been caught with corruption. And let's take a listen to what the president says. After that, the presidential head of presidency in the ANC, Comrade Busani, is going to chat to us and tell us exactly what his thoughts are. He's defending the president and what the president had to say. So let's take a listen to that. Boom.
That was given to the President of the Republic nearly 6 years ago. Yesterday, I submitted to Parliament Cabinet's response to the recommendations of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture, corruption, and fraud in the public sector. This evening, I wish to outline the critical actions that government is taking and the work that has already been done to give effect to the Commission's recommendations and forever bring an end to state capture in our country. This was no ordinary commission of inquiry. It was a commission whose work will have a lasting impact on our democracy and our country and its people. 25 years ago, our new democratic constitution came into effect. As we celebrated this fulfillment of the struggle of the people of South Africa for democracy and peace and freedom, few people could have imagined the depths to which our country would be dragged by greed, selfishness, and the abuse of power. Few people could have imagined that from among the leadership of our public institutions, from within our business circles, from among our public representatives and public servants, would emerge a network of criminal intent. Few could have imagined that this group of people would infiltrate key departments of government, state-owned enterprises, private companies, law enforcement bodies, and security services to loot vast amounts of public funds, that they would weaken and destroy state institutions and thus undermine the capacity of the state. The corruption that was perpetrated in our country is a crime against the people of South Africa. Corruption is a betrayal of our democracy, and it is also an assault on the institutions that we established together to advance the values of our Constitution and the interests of our people. The money that was stolen robbed our people of resources that should have led to the development of our country and improved the livelihoods of our people. Yet even as state capture and corruption sought to compromise our democracy and destroy our institutions, our democracy remained resilient and the people of South Africa stood firm, defiant, and resolute. Despite our achievement at bringing state capture to an end, its effects remain. The difficulties and challenges our country is facing today have many causes, but state capture made a substantial contribution to many of our challenges. When we do not have enough locomotives to carry goods to our ports, when our power stations fail, when our national airline closes routes and cancels flights, when the employees of a state-owned enterprise are not paid, and when our security services are slow to respond to public unrest, we feel the hand and effects of state capture. We see the effects of state capture in other areas as well, in our weakened institutions, in the substantial public debt of some of our institutions, in poor service delivery, and in diminished public confidence in the state.
Right, man. So we've just heard from the president. I'm sure you caught the family meeting on Sunday and you watched the whole statement. And of course, you know, for those of us who love this country, man, we are just saddened to see the state of the country being what it is. We are saddened to see our leadership going on. And bashapanaka noga iphela the way re bonang ka teng. It's really sad to see the state of the country and the ANC being what it is, man. And I really do hope that, you know, we've been hopeful that the ANC will find itself, that the renewal process will be true to what it really should be. All right. So just a quick one from the Ronald Lamola says, the Minister of Justice says there must be accountability in this country. We will not allow conspiracies to derail us, says Ronald Lamola, whose intention is to be the deputy president at the next conference. So he'll be up against Paul Mashatile and a few other people that want to run as deputy president. But going back to what the president has said, just to try and mention some of the things he mentioned, of course, you can watch and listen and read the whole statement. I'm not going to do that. I'll just catch on a couple of things. He started off by saying that few could have imagined that this group of people would infiltrate the key departments, state-owned companies, private companies, law enforcement bodies, and security services to loot vast amounts of public funds. All right, so let's go back. So key departments were infiltrated by people who were there to loot, be it your Eskom, be it your major airlines such as SAA, be it Denel, you name them, the Transnet, you name it. Either people in key positions of administration, like we have seen with Brian Molefe and the Guptas having their key men in the key positions in the state institutions to allow for corruption to flourish. Also, we've seen private companies benefiting from state capture, coming in and working with officials who are employed within the state, people who were employed as public servants who were supposed to serve communities and the public, went in there to collide with private individuals as well as some politicians to make sure that they loot the state. It's a sad state of affairs. And of course, O.R. Tambo did warn comrades around us to say, if you think the fight against the liberation is difficult, wait until you are in power. Wait until you have the state resources. And of course, this is what Ndate O.R. Tambo had predicted. It's exactly what he had predicted. Now you see the ANC at war with itself, which is a very sad state of affairs. All right, so the president says, and what would weaken and destroy state institutions and thus undermine the capacity of the state? The corruption that was perpetrated is a crime against the people of South Africa. We saw law institutions such as SIU, we saw the hawks that were taken apart, were formed into the scorpions that could not sting anyone. I mean, actually, they were the scorpions, they were turned into the hawks, and they were not given full powers or strength. We also saw the NPA that was weakened. We saw the state security agency that was weakened, which was filled by corrupt cabals who were using the state resources to fight political battles, to kill other people who were not doing as they were told. And of course, the president goes on to say, the people of South Africa are tired of corruption. We are tired, man. We are tired of corruption. Corruption has stolen people's lives. Corruption has taken from our people. Corruption has increased poverty. I mean, state institutions are not functioning well enough to be able to create an environment that are conducive for business to grow and for those state institutions to create opportunities for young people to come in and work in these government departments. And we've seen people people who have been part of the furniture of government, who have not moved, who have just been waiting to see politicians move every time there's a change of a president, every time there's a change of a minister, every time there's a change of a premier, a mayor. These officials have got permanent jobs and they've just been rotating the top leadership, and they have the ultimate power to actually run these institutions. And some of them are corrupt and they're getting away with it. The people of South Africa are tired of corruption. Those who are involved in corruption or who are even thinking about engaging in criminal conduct must know that all the instrument of the states will be used to bring them to book. All right, so this is from the president. Mr. President, I am dressed up just for you, Mr. President. I hope you see this video. Mr. President, we need to see real action really taking place. We need to see some of those comrades who are now also most likely to be in the top 5 of the leadership of the ANC at the next conference. Some of them are running again, but their names are being implicated in the same report that you've brought to Parliament and you've spoken about on Sunday. Mr. President, we know some of them. I'm scared to even name them. Some of them have been nominated. They might be in the top 5. there might be NEC members, and some of them will be your running mates, Mr. President. And I don't know when you are going to act. Are you waiting for re fitlhe ko conferencing? After conference, then maybe you'll regain some strength and deal with these people. I don't know. Do we have capacity to deal with those corrupt individuals who are pointed out at this, at these people who have been pointed out in this report? All right, so the president says where corruption has occurred, for example, in the procurement of COVID-related goods, we have acted swiftly to prosecute those responsible and recover stolen funds. Okay, so the president does go into detail about the amount of billions that have been recovered, that have been stolen, or taken back from the people who stole them. We've yet to see people in overalls to see. And I don't know why the law is taking so long in dealing with some of these people. Re batla bona batho ba apere di-overall, man. Re batla bona batho ba kena go jail, this one, Edwin Sodi, has been pointed out. Zwane, Msebenzi Zwane, has been pointed out. Name some of them. I'm not going to name them. You name them, because you can see the report yourself. Their names are all out there. I'm scared of some of them. All right, so the president says, now that our response to the State Capture Commission has been submitted to Parliament, we look forward to the deliberation and suggestions of members of Parliament and from across society as we take forward recommendations of this commission. There will be no place for corrupt people, for criminal networks, for perpetrators of the state capture to hide. Those are your comments, Mr. President, and we hope that indeed you will act on these things. All right, so what do you have to say? But before we look at your comments, let's take a listen to the president, the head of presidency in the ANC, Ubuti, as he shares just his line of defense for the number one president, President Ramaphosa. Let's take a break. Boom.
On the State Capture Commission has never been a very dubious one. Number one, the creation of the State Capture Commission, if you remember, it flew from the public protector. Then the ANC conference in 2017 resolved to have a judicial commission of inquiry. So we can't mince words about that. So we wouldn't have adopted a resolution to undertake this commission of inquiry if we did not believe that there is something wrong. And we're close to about 5,000 delegates of the ANC. So there can't be two tongues about it. The commission has gone through its inquiry and made findings. And those findings, the president made an undertaking that he will provide the action plan on those findings on the 22nd of October, and that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, beyond just providing the responses on the action plan and so on, the president also shared this action plan with the nation.
Mm-hmm. Now let's get to the key.
The president was not actually watering down the findings of the Commission of Inquiry. Mm. What is factually correct is that when an inquiry has been made, you reflect on the findings and you look at the recommendations. And based on the recommendation, you take a different approach. You are stating a fact on how the findings are actually treated. It was not watering them down. That is why the president was emphatic in saying that there was indeed state capture. Mm. But then with regards to how we treat or how we action some of the recommendations and findings, the president then categorized various findings. Others have to be dealt with. About 200 of them, they're criminal, more like criminal in nature. Others have to be dealt through the process of the constitution and so on. Mm. So the issue is the president needed to make a point that once a commission of inquiry has been concluded, it has made recommendations. We must know it doesn't bind. But as the ANC, as the presidency, there is commitment to act, even though it doesn't bind, but there is commitment to act. That is why he has referred all these findings, recommendations to various institutions.
When criticism is shouted from different coaches in public, it doesn't have much of an impact. What will have an impact and be helpful is for them to use their influence and their access to him to say, colleague, comrade, we think you are erring on this side, or we think you should be approaching matters this way. But to stand in rooftops and shout at him is not really constructive. He remains hard at work. He remains very much focused. He's not going to be distracted by criticism. He understands that in his role, criticism is par for course. So that's not going to make him lose sleep at night. Other issues will be dealt as we go.
All right, man. Welcome back. All right. So that's the voice and the video from the head of the presidency in the African National Congress. Of course, doing what needs to be done, defending the president. And of course, you also heard from the presidential spokesperson in government in saying that the presidents who were attacking the current president should not be doing it from a rooftop. Why can't they call the president and say, Yazin, President Cyril, we are not going to call on the meetings. We are not going to call on public these press conferences. We are going to speak to you, and then what do you have to say? We want to hear it from your mouth. We want to tell you what we think, and they could have done that. So let's have a look at what you have to say on Twitter, on Facebook, and all social media platforms about what has happened in the last few days. And of course, in response to the president's speech, Jacaranda says, please, Mr. President, it has been happening for years and years, and are you that out of touch with the country you have been elected to manage? So this is Jacaranda. Neville Marshall says, not one word about cadre deployment, how that's got us here. Not one word about doing away with it, an appointment on merit, taking previous advantage into account. Marinda Bender says, they have not infiltrated key departments. They were deployed by the ANC. State capture did not fall from the sky. It's the result of greed and bad policies. The guy T says, Mr. President, with due respect, whose problem is that that is a national issue or yours personally? I don't understand the thinking in your statement and all of that. All right. Shivani says, Mr. President, they must all go to jail. Uncle Abi Moss says, if you are serious about corruption, start by reversing the SAA takeover and punish those who conducted the takeover. Pierre Jacob says, yeah, right. Bring back Dudu Myeni. She was the best. That's interesting. Tusero says, get rid of 4 ministers and deputies who received bribes from Bosasa, EOH, etc. Consider stepping aside due to Phala issue, so you can clear your name. All right, so what exactly are you personally going to do? You have people in government who are implicated in the report. Are you, as the president, going to fire those people? This comes from Zwei. Wayne says, this didn't happen overnight, Cyril. It happened over a long period, and you, under your personal and your party's watch, nothing needed to be imagined. You saw it happen. You saw your friends and peers steal, and you did nothing. Giftor says he's doing something now because he has power now. He didn't have power at the time. All right, so those are your comments. And of course, I'm going to reach out to my constitutional book, and I want to point out something to you and about a sitting president and the MMC, and the ministers about doing any side hustle or side work. Is it constitutional or unconstitutional? Let's take a break. Boom. All right, man. I quickly ran and made sure that I get a hold of the constitution of the country, and of course, I'm going to read something here about the president and the removal of the president, and of course, you heard from Jacob Zuma, former President Jacob Zuma, saying that the president is corrupt. The Phala matter is out in the open. The current president has not responded to it. Has he broken the law? Has he lied to South Africans? And what does the Constitution say about the removal of the president? So let me quickly take you through to Chapter 5. That says, okay, so I'm going to read Chapter 88, Chapter 5, subsection 88. It says, term of office of the president. The president's term of office begins on assuming office and ends upon a vacancy occurring or when the person next elected president assumes office. Okay. No person may hold office as president for more than 2 terms. But when a person is elected to fill a vacancy in the office of the president, the period between that election and the next election of a president is not regarded as a term. All right. So just to put it out clear, that's regarding the term of office. Now I'm going to talk about what the Constitution says in terms of the removal of the president. Subsection 89 says the National Assembly, by a resolution adopted with a supporting vote of at least 2/3 of its members, may remove the president from office only on the grounds of a serious violation of the Constitution or the law. That's a serious violation of the Constitution or the law. So has the president violated the law? Has the president violated the Constitution? Him keeping that amount of dollars in his couches, furniture, has he broken the law? And B says the president can be removed if there's a serious misconduct. All right. And then C says a president can be removed when he has an inability to perform the functions of the office. All right. So what are the functions of the office? All right. So the president's powers and functions, it says, the president has the powers entrusted by the Constitution and the legislation, including those necessary to perform the functions of head of state and head of national executive. The president is responsible for assenting to and signing bills. All right. I'll talk about the next bill in the next, when I'm done with this. Referring to a bill back to the National Assembly for reconsideration of the bill's constitutionality. Referring to a bill to the Constitutional Court for a decision on the bill's constitutionality. Summoning the National Assembly, the National Council of Provinces, or Parliament to an extraordinary sitting to conduct special business, making any appointments that the Constitution or the legislation requires the President to make, either than the head of the National Executive, and appointing commissions of inquiry. And of course, this last point refers to, the appointment of the Zondo Commission and its findings. And remember, that Zondo Commission was appointed by Jacob Zuma. And Zondo was appointed by Jacob Zuma. And now he doesn't like Zondo and he doesn't like the contents of what came out of that commission. All right, so there are more in terms of the responsibilities of the president. Okay, I'm not going to go into all of them. So those are the three reasons why the president can be removed: if there's a serious violation of the constitution or the law, if there's a serious misconduct, and his inability to perform the functions of the office. All right. So anyone who has been removed from office of the president in terms of subsection A, 1A or B may not receive the benefits to that office and may not serve in any public office. All right, so it hasn't happened yet. We've seen the removal of Thabo Mbeki, but it was not on the basis of these three things. So he's still receiving the presidential benefits till he passes away, which is your medical aid, which is the benefits, state security, etc., etc. All right. So we've seen Kgalema Motlanthe also still receiving those. I'm not sure if Baleka Mbete is receiving those, or I doubt it. Anyway, let's talk about the presidents who are being recognized. Jacob Zuma, as much as he was removed from his presidency in office, the office of the presidency, he's still receiving those benefits. It was not as a basis of these three issues here. Maybe it was on subsection C, which is the inability to perform the functions of office, because that is excluded from the benefits. All right, so the good book, the constitution of the country, says that if the president is unable to perform, can be removed from office. So we've heard all the public spats between the three presidents. We've heard all the defense from the provincial leaders. We've heard all the defenses from the spokespersons of the president and the head of the presidency in the ANC. So, all right. So I'm going to take a break from this issue. Let's take a look at the next bill that has been passed in Parliament. Let's take a break. Boom. Just in case you have wishes, or you want to be a president one day, or you want to run for Parliament as an independent, well, guess what? Guess what? Before the 10th of December, you might be lucky to hear that now you can. All right. So let me read a statement released by the ANC. It says here that the special NEC welcomed the passing of the Electoral Amendment Bill by the South African National Assembly, paving the way for it to be considered by the National Council of Provinces ahead of the 10th of December 2022 deadline set by the Constitutional Court. The main objective of the bill is to make provision for independent candidates to contest elections for the National Assembly or provincial legislatures, and for the requirements and qualifications must be met by the persons who wish to be registered as independent candidates. Look, this has been happening in councils. I'm sure you've seen Kokasiagago, where a Sipho wants to run as an independent, as a councillor, as a PR, or as a ward councillor. Normally, they don't win as ward councillors, but some of them have won as independent candidates. And we've seen at the time, One SA movement led by Musima Imani have been really fighting for this to happen and to take place. And they have been supporting individual candidates who were running under the banner of One SA movement to run in these councils. So now the opportunity is there for anybody who wants to run for Parliament and who wants to run for the provincial legislatures. So, but the National Assembly passed the bill after processing inputs solicited from citizens through public hearings and written submissions. Since the beginning of 2022, the debate about the most appropriate electoral system of our country is an important part of our maturing democracy. The ANC has always supported a proportional representation system as it's best suited for a country as diverse as ours in terms of race, class, gender, and political opinion. All right. It ensures that every political viewpoint shared by more than 1/4 or 1% of the population is able to find expression in parliament. So you can be a member of parliament. You can contest to become a member of the provincial legislature. And let's hope that it will go through and pass in parliament. All right, so the statement goes on further to say the ANC also supports the view that the electoral system reforms must strengthen accountability of the public representatives, which should be addressed in the next round of amendments and must be discussed widely in our society. The NEC noted the objections from some sections of the civil society and expressed a desire to continue an ongoing engagement on these matters. So there you have it. If you want to run as an independent candidate, hopefully, should this process go through, you'll be able to run as a member of parliament. Many of you, I've seen your comments on social media. You are tired of old people representing us in parliament. You're tired of sick old people who sleep, some of them sleep in parliament. And you are not happy with what they are representing you about. You don't know what they're representing you for. So you have an opportunity to really run as an independent candidate should this bill pass. So, all right, so let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to come back to the city of Joburg. Let's take a break, man. Boom. Welcome back to it, man. Thank you very much for joining us right here on the Free Ride podcast. And of course, let's take a look at the next story making headlines. And of course, this broke this morning. And of course, being a Tuesday. So what happened here is that the DA wins a court case over Phalatse's removal as Joburg mayor. Phalatse has been declared to be the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg. And the Democratic Alliance has won a court case challenging the removal of Phalatse as executive mayor of Johannesburg. Phalatse has been declared to be the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg by the South Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg. My God. And like, what's happening in Johannesburg, Bafowethu? It's crazy. Just last week, we saw the mayor and the mayoral candidates being appointed. And just a week before the mayor was elected into office, Mayor Dada Morero has now stepped aside together with members of the mayoral candidates. And of course, Lord knows what's going to happen to officials who were quickly removed from the offices of the mayor and the speaker and the chair of chairs. And some MMC's offices were cleared. People were told to go. And now with this ruling, it's just destabilizing people's lives. And I don't know what these people are going through at the moment. All right, so the DA lost control of the city after Phalatse was voted out of power last month in a council through a motion of no confidence brought by minority parties and backed by the ANC. The ANC Joburg Regional Chair Dada Morero was voted in unopposed as the Metro Mayor's executive mayor. As the Metro's executive mayor. The South Gauteng High Court on Tuesday delivered a judgment on the DA's urgent application to reinstate Phalatse in office. The High Court heard arguments in the case last week with the ANC and Joburg Council Speaker Colleen Makubele opposing the DA's application. Judge Raylene Kately ruled that the DA's application was urgent as contemplated by Rule 612 and the usual forms, manner of service, and time periods set out in the Uniforms Rules of Court. Judge Kately also ruled that the decision of Makhubele on the 29th of September 2022 to schedule an extraordinary meeting of council to vote the motion of no confidence in Phalatse on the 30th of September was unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. All right, so what happened? So on a Thursday, they get called to a programming meeting called by the Speaker of Council, Colleen Makhubele. They all come through. So the DA argued that that meeting did not form a quorum, and that meeting was to approve for a motion of no confidence and to approve that a council meeting the next day on the 30th of September must sit. And therefore, the DA argued that the meeting did not meet quorum, and yet the Speaker proceeded anyway to call for a meeting of council on the 30th of September. And it is at that meeting where the vote of no confidence against the mayor was passed. Unopposed, Dada Morero was elected the mayor of Johannesburg. The decision taken by Makhubele during the programming committee meeting has therefore been reviewed and set aside. The decision taken by the sixth respondent, Makhubele, on the 30th of September to adopt a motion of no confidence in the first applicant Phalatse as executive mayor of the city of Joburg is declared unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. The decision taken by the sixth respondent, Makhubele, on the 30th of September to elect the fourth respondent, Dada Morero, as executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg is declared unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid. The DA had argued in court that the programming committee meeting chaired by Makhubele did not quorate, and therefore Morero's election was invalid. All right, Judge Kately further ruled that all decisions taken by the ANC's Dada Morero following his election as the mayor of Johannesburg are declared unlawful, unconstitutional, and invalid, and are reviewed and set aside. So what does this mean? It means that all the MMCs who are appointed and potentially all the political appointees in these offices have now been declared unconstitutional, and the decisions must be set aside. All right, so the order has been suspended for a period of 10 days until it's confirmed by the High Court. During such period, the fifth respondent or other unauthorized officer may apply to the High Court on supplemented papers for an order in terms of Section 172(1)(b) of the Constitution in respect of any specified decision of the fourth respondent, Morero, made between the 30th of September and the handing down of this order. Makhubele was ordered to pay the costs of the DA's urgent application, including the cost of 2 councils. Yo. The DA has asked the High Court to impose a personal cost order against Makhubele. So, which means her as a speaker may not necessarily fork out the costs from her budget as a speaker. She will, however, pay it from her as an individual. So it's a personal cost. So, needless to say, Phalatse has tweeted to say, "We won for democracy." So, the politics of Johannesburg, man, the politics of Johannesburg have been crazy. All right, so I'm going to take a break. When I come back, let's quickly wrap up the show. This is the Unfiltered Truth right here on the Free Ride podcast. So big ups. I'm blessed formally for all the serious talks that we need to discuss, man. I hope you're enjoying it. Let's take a break. Boom. All right, man. Welcome back to it. This is another episode of the Unfiltered Truth. And of course, there's a lot of issues, topics that I've covered today. And of course, I had to be all dressed up for them. The last issue here is to congratulate the new Prime Minister of the UK new Prime Minister. I thought I had it here on standby, man. All right, let's take a look at it. While I do that, just to thank you very much for those of you who have been liking, sharing, and commenting on my pages. And of course, for all the love you've shown me on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and here on this platform on YouTube. So I really appreciate it, man. So let's continue. Prime Minister, UK. Did I just say? Okay. So yeah, man, as I was saying, I really appreciate you for liking, for sharing, for engaging me, and of course for proposing new ideas. And thank you for some of you who have also said that I must refer to you as the Free Riders. All right, man. So before I get on to the story, this weekend I will be joining a very interesting organization, and they are going to be doing some wonderful work for young girls in Soweto, Protea Glen. And of course, my buddy Greg, he's been on the show before. He does urban farming, kasi farming. He's looking at taking young girls together with another organization to empower girls about being woke, being alert, understanding the issues of sex, the dangers that young girls face today, etc., etc. So young girls are in trouble. They are the most likely to be raped. They are the most likely to be abused. And therefore, they must be given the tools to be and the skills to understand and to survive in this very crazy South Africa that we have. All right. So my last issue that I wanted to speak about, congratulations to British politician Rishi Sunak. British politician Rishi Sunak was Monday elected Conservative leader and will become the next Prime Minister after rival Penny Mordaunt failed to secure the necessary 100 nominations from her fellow MPs. Rishi Sunak is therefore elected as leader of the Conservative Party, and Mordaunt vowed her full support for the former finance minister. Sunak was to make his first remarks at 2:30, according to Brady, whose 1922 committee of Tory MPs organized rapid leadership election following last week's resignation of the Prime Minister Liz Truss, who resigned. Former leaders Boris Johnson pulled out of the race late Sunday, leaving a straight fight between Sunak and Mordaunt. These are unprecedented times. Despite the compressed timetable for the leadership contest, it is clear that colleagues feel we need certainty today. They have taken this decision in good faith for the good of the country. The Tories retain a majority in Parliament, meaning that as their leader, Sunak will be named Prime Minister by King Charles III. All right. Another, let's see here. All right, another article. So congratulations to an Indian, Kenyan, African descent to now lead the UK. How things have changed, man. Of course, Let's see here that there's a statement that I might want to play for you. It's a quick clip. I'm hoping it's going to be loud enough from the Prime Minister himself. He promises integrity, professionalism, and accountability. So in this video, he's walking up. He's a young guy. Apparently, he's a billionaire. And let's hope that he's going to stay in his position for longest times. But we know the pressure that comes with being the Prime Minister of the UK is not a pop and place.
To my predecessor, Liz Truss. She was not wrong to want to improve growth in this country. It is a noble aim. And I admired her restlessness to create change. But some mistakes were made. Not born of ill will or bad intentions. Quite the opposite, in fact. But mistakes nonetheless. And I understand too that I have work to do to restore trust after all that has happened. All I can say is that I am not daunted. I know the high office I have accepted, and I hope to live up to its demands. But when the opportunity to serve comes along, you cannot question the moment, only your willingness. So I stand here before you, ready to lead our country into the future, to put your needs above politics, to reach out and build a government that represents the very best traditions of my party. Together, we can achieve incredible things. We will create a future worthy of the sacrifices so many have made, and fill tomorrow and every day thereafter with hope. Thank you.
All right, man. Congratulations to the new Prime Minister. Of course, when they come into office, they all have these beautifully scripted speeches. They say all the right things until they have to do the actual work and make the mistakes and face the criticism and possibly resign or be fired. It's the nature of politics, man. All right, so this is how we come to the end of it. Big ups and thanks to everybody once again, man. I really appreciate you free riders for loving the content, for constantly just encouraging me, man, to carry on and to create content for you. And I really appreciate it. It's not easy creating content, but I continue to do what I love doing, and which is to create content. So this week coming up on Saturday, I'm attending that event. I'm hoping that this event is going to be a groundbreaking event. There's new partnerships that wants to partner with the Free Ride podcast. We want to do more for our people. We want to develop young boys. We want to give skills and training to young girls. So there's a couple of organizations that are doing fantastic work that we'll be working with. On Saturday, I'll be joining them. And after that, Mr. President has been, not Cyril Ramaphosa, Mr. President, the green Mercedes-Benz, has been invited to two parties on Saturday. The first one is a wedding, and the second one is a friend of mine's party. Ko kwabone ko Mfolo ko Soweto ke Mbeki. He's also a member of the Soweto Vintage Club. So those are the two parties that I'll be ending off my day on Saturday on, man. All right, then Sunday, I'll be joining some chaps in hopefully all the way in Auckland Park. And this is where we'll meet Lizole, Bridget. We'll talk about some of the stuff they're doing. We'll be talking about African stories. This is going to be amazing. And of course, I'll be interviewing Bridget, who's going to be joining me as a guest. We'll talk to her about being a female in the entertainment industry. She's got a gig on Sunday. She's invited me to. She's got a partnership going on with a company called Secure Express, which is like a Uber, a Bolt type of setup, maxi taxi. So we'll talk about the partnerships there. We'll talk about the music. We'll exchange a lot of ideas with a lot of up and coming musicians. As you know, I've been giving a platform to a lot of up and coming youngsters from Kokasi who are doing exceptional work, who just wants an interview, who just wants to be recognized. I've also got artists that are going to be coming from Kosoweto, and I'm talking about guys Batroa, Spiwe. There's a couple of guys, man, that really wants to come on board on the Free Ride podcast. Soweto is calling the Free Ride podcast to say, Mzala zwagala utiaga zwagala mfowethu. Thank you so much for giving a lot of our young people inspiration. Thank you for giving our young people a chance. Young people are loving the concept. And of course, I'll be coming to Kwasiahao. I've got some young people from Go Pitori who have reached out to me, as far as the Val, as far as Mangaung, in the Free State, Northwest. They're all just reaching out and say, can we be on the Free Ride podcast? We love what you're doing with the young cats. The singing in the car is quite dope. You give young cats an opportunity to speak up. Thank you very much for doing such, Msitana. So, Prazak, thank you so much for giving young people a chance. So, this is what the Free Ride podcast is about, man. It's not only about the celebrities. Of course, we can bring all the big names that we can bring. We will bring them on board, but it's really about development of the young people, because I'm passionate about young people, man. I love young people. They are the future of our country. They need an ear. They just want us to listen to them, to share their ideas with us. And of course, as Legrot Man, I thought, you know what? Give them an opportunity to speak up, to share their passions, to share their ideas, and to work with these young people, to encourage them, because Magrot Manapa are not listening to Dindoana, you know? And big media is focused on breaking news, focused on celebrities, and so on. So we will give the up-and-coming young guys an opportunity to share and express themselves. And of course, this is what the Free Ride podcast is about. It's about building young people, building our communities, contributing to our country, making South Africa a better place. And of course, I love this country, and I'm going to do as much as I can to utilize the platforms that I have, such as these ones and all our platforms, to be able to share knowledge and share experiences and give people a chance, man. So this has been another episode of The Unfiltered Truth, where I speak my truth, speak my mind. I hope you enjoyed it. May God be with you, bless you. Remember, you can run for parliament next year. You can run for a provincial legislature. And as this unfolds, I will share it with you so that you can run, you can run, you can run, you can run. We all run if we don't want people to run who are old, who are tired, who have no interests of ours in place. So we'll continue to use this platform to educate, to empower, and to share some knowledge. All right, I'm out, man. I'm out. Boom.